When we consider the relationship between the sheep and the shepherd, there's a great amount of trust because the shepherd has proven himself trustworthy. Good morning. This is Pastor Ernie Lewis of the Blue Point Church in Sisney, Illinois, with your thoughts for Wednesday. You know, Jesus had many people who were casual followers. They only came to see the healings or the miracles, maybe to eat that miraculous bread. But there were a number of people who followed Jesus closely. They were his disciples. And it was this group that Jesus was talking about when he said in John chapter 10 and verse 27, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." You know, David had already told us what it is like to love his sheep and to care for them despite the dangers and the threats that may come. I'm sure there were nights whenever he would sing those psalms that he had written so that the sheep could hear his voice, be comforted out in the field, even whenever there were wild predators all around them. Here Jesus says, "My sheep hear my voice." By the way, he is comparing them to the group he's actually addressing here in chapter 10 and verse 26 and 27. He's talking to those who have tried to falsely accuse him, those who will not believe in him, he says, as the true Son of God. So he says, "You do not believe because you are not of my sheep, as I have said to you." No matter what he has taught to this group, they were only there to find fault in his words. And when Jesus says, "My sheep hear my voice," it means they are followers who trust in him. They will follow his teachings, even as some naive sheep who follow their shepherd. I wonder if we are like those sheep today. Do we recognize his voice when he speaks to us? Perhaps we doubt something he has said in his word, or maybe we won't trust him in some promises he has already given us. Do we recognize the Bible as God's holy word that we can read and hear from God himself? And do we claim the promises in his word about his protection, his direction, even the promise of eternal life? You know, there are times in the Christian life when the voice of God comes in different ways. Perhaps we hear it in a sermon, or perhaps we hear it in a Bible lesson, maybe even some sage words from a mature Christian giving us advice. I believe God often speaks to us like he did to Elijah in that still, small voice. His Spirit works within our spirit to guide us, and we must be listening for his voice. Jesus said, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them." Wow, that phrase is very comforting to me, that Jesus looks down on a multitude of people in this world, and yet he knows all those who are his true followers. There may be some in this world who are pretending to be Christians. They're fooling many people around them. But the ultimate test for the believer is if Jesus knows us as his sheep. He says, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." Following the Lord is so important to the flock because when we don't follow closely, we may lose our way. We may even be snatched up by some dangerous predator out there in the world, and we certainly won't find the provision he has prepared for us. So as the sheep of his pasture, we need to listen very closely to the voice of God and follow his direction, follow his instructions every day. You know, there's comfort and there's guidance, there's sustenance, there's even protection when we follow our shepherd.